were born before the wind, also younger than the sun. And our bonnet boat was one as we sailed into the mystic. Hark now, hear the sailors cry.
That you and Heather have become parents for the second time.
Yes, indeed.
Canada Day.
Yeah.
Oh, well, little boy?
Little boy.
Mother and child doing well, of course?
She's doing great, and now we're just remembering what it's like to not sleep ever again.
It's almost a relief to come away and do a concert like this then.
Well, I know they're here.
Oh, okay, there you go.
There's no relief.
Talking about child, it seems an appropriate place to start. I was reading your bio and it said that you, of course, come from Regina and you come from a musical family. But what it didn't say is, you know, who performed and what did they do?
Well, I had a kind of, no one really performed until my oldest brother was the first guy to pick up a guitar. My dad was a jazz fan who, back in Saskatoon years ago, would go out and see the big band shows and stuff like that, but never really had a predilection to actually playing. But both between my mom and my dad, they listened to all kinds of stuff, so we really got kind of inundated. With not just with that kind of stuff, but with the whole Odetta, Sing Out magazine, Pete Seeger stuff when I was growing up.
Well, that anticipates the question I was about to ask, because it says you took up the guitar when you were 8, which was about 1972 by my reckoning.
Yeah.
Did you start playing rock and roll right away, or did you start out, I mean, because the reason I ask is that folk was very big then, and Les Paul was very big then, entirely different genre. Did you start off with rock?
Well, I started off, it's really hard to pinpoint it, because my oldest brother used to listen to Cream and Hendrix and all that,
Yeah.
so my oldest brother and my uncle kind of covered the acid 60s thing. And then my parents, the more folky, Joan Baez, Bob Dylan, of course, that we all listened to generally, and Beatles, Supremes, lots of Supremes. And so it was just always around, and I, being the last kid, and the fact that they were, you know, they all listened to music at that point, there was always some music going on from somebody.
Yeah, I read also, following on from that you left home when you were 16, and my first reaction was, boy, there's somebody who didn't lack confidence. But I seem to remember at 16 you seemed to be, feel immortal. What was life really like between the ages of 16 and 20 when you really started to become established as a blues performer?
Well, it was hand to mouth. It was, I never kind of stayed in one place very long. I tended to move into a city for 3 or 4 months until I got bored, and I'd split and I'd try someplace else. It's a nice time in your life because you can do that.
Yeah.
You can just blow through stuff, and ended up in Montreal, and ended up in...
Yeah. Actually, it was funny because it said you left Regina for Montreal and you ended up in Vancouver. I thought, boy, does he lose his sense of direction, but I see what you mean. You
stopped over in Winnipeg for a couple of years there somewhere too, so...
I guess one of the big turning points was hooking up with Stevie Ray Vaughan, but how did that happen? How did you meet him?
Well, I had opened up for George Thorogood and John Lee Hooker when I was 16 in Regina, and I'd already moved out. I was in Vancouver when I was 18, and I think I got broke, or I sold a guitar, or whatever the case was. I needed a little help. I was playing in a band, I think with a guy named David Bergen, who was a harmonica player out of San Francisco, and he was playing in Vancouver, and he was kind of my big break in a way, because David had recorded with Amos Garrett, and all these people from San Francisco Bay Area, Norton Buffalo, and people like that. So for me, it was kind of exciting being from the prairies and wondering whether you'd ever, play blues and whether you can keep that up being from Regina, Anyway, so I went back home for a little bit, and I got a call to open up for Stevie Ray because he had fired his opening act, or it wasn't working out. So I got the gig, and we got along immediately, and and then I warmed him up the next year. He came back again, and at that time I was playing with Billy Cowsill of the Cowsills.
That's a bit of a contrast.
Oh, definitely. Anyway, so that's about it in a nutshell. And I went down to the States and hung out with him a little bit. Came back, put a band together, and we started busting it across the country over and over.
Well, when your first record was rock and roll, and it sort of crossed my mind that on one level that was an easy choice to make because it was very popular, but on the other hand it could be a difficult choice because there was a lot of competition. Do you see a difference? I mean, did you see a distinction between blues and rock and roll, particularly at that time?
Well, I happened to write this pop song called 5 Long Years, and that's what kind of started the dichotomy of Colin James, I suppose, as far as is he a blues guy, is he a pop guy, and I didn't mean to do that. It just, I wrote a song that happened to be very pop, and it was kind of like a hit song sounding thing. So So, and on the other side of this, my first record I ever did was a blues song. So really, I started out exactly that way.
Yeah.
And now, my fans have been nice enough to allow me to continue playing and play acoustic music and big band music and rock and roll. And for me, as long as I can keep playing the blues, I don't care how.
Yeah. Well, there's a good point. When your record Colin James came out, in 1989, it became the fastest-selling debut record in Canadian history, according to what I read.
Yeah.
And a lot of people would say, "Man, you've got it made now." But I see something different. I would have thought they'd put you under a tremendous amount of pressure because now the suits are interested. Now you're a marketable commodity. How did you feel at 25 when that was all happening?
You don't have a clue. You're just so happy you got a new pair of jeans. Really, I mean, you don't know enough, unfortunately. And most people who end up in that position don't know enough at that point. And that's something hopefully it will change over the years. I think it's slow coming.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that. But it's the same old story. If I knew then what I know now. But it's all business, and it's all your time comes, your time goes. Your time comes and your time goes, and you just got to stay around so you can be there on the backhand.
Yeah. Well, I think that everybody I've spoken to who is in the business that you're in does it because they can't imagine doing anything else. But here's a thought that. One reviewer said that after releasing your second album, you did the unthinkable. You released a completely different genre, and it crossed my mind. Do you ever get to the point where you can, as you, Colin James, can say to the Suits, "My next record is going to be Gregorian chant," and they say, "Okay, Colin, that's fine."
Well, I've already done that a little bit, and sometimes it's better received than others. Obviously, based on what you can do commercially. I think the little big band thing has always been something where people. I can play the blues, but it's got an attraction on a pop level.
Yeah.
That it's still old music. It's still Jackie Wilson and all the old stuff, but it was pop music then, and it's pop music now.
Yeah.
Whereas Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf and all that stuff, it's a harder sell. It's a smaller demographic, and it doesn't have the precedence that Elvis and the whole late the early '50s to early '60s with the Jackie Wilson stuff had. So I think there's a wider appeal.
You've hit on something which I think is one of the most fascinating aspects of what you do, for me anyway, and that is the research element. I know that you can go to a library and you can read up a lot of stuff, and I know that you've done a lot of research, but how do you track down the recordings? Where did you find recordings? I found there are whole lots of names that I'd never even heard of.
Me as well.
Where did you find the music?
Well,
was it just sheet music, or did you actually find recordings of some of these people?
I can't read music, so I wouldn't do me any good. I can't read, however.
Ah, that's a relief. I think you have been reading my notes. You've been giving me all the right questions.
What was that? What was the question? So,
well, essentially, where did you find the music?
I've listened to stuff ever since I can start. Think of started. Some stuff I've had in my pipe for years, and the other stuff I've got to go and woodshed. I listen to records. I solicit friends. I solicit collectors. I had a friend in Toronto who's a really avid collector help me out this time with Sophronia B and jumping from 6 to 6. And the rest of it, I get about 75, 80 songs together, and I send them down to somebody else and let them read through it.
You must have an awesome record collection.
I have, although I've given away lots of stuff over the years. I've ended up leaving stuff in people's houses.
Question for you: where is home now?
Home is here, North Shore.
I know that, but I mean where specifically, because I want to come and listen to some of your records. So listen, if you and Heather will start clearing out the spare room, I'll thank you for taking this time out, because I know you've got a show to do in a very few minutes. It's been great talking with you.
Likewise.
And maybe we'll get a chance to do it again sometime.
Excellent.
Thanks, Colin.
Thank you.
Hark now, hear the sailors cry. Smell the sea and feel the sky. Let your soul and spirit fly as we sail into the misty. Yeah.